Okay, you can only do this first part if you haven't looked at the chart today. So, the BBC topic chart. So, this is how it looks when it goes really, really wrong. So somebody says to you, "You've got a face that only a mother could love." And the other person comes back with, "Well, if I had a face like yours, blah, 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 and at least my mother loves me," and then it goes on and on. So, what does this look like to you?
The Olympics.
Venerable Trini says this looks like the Olympics. Yeah, it could be. Anyway, what's up?
I cheated.
You've cheated? It's actually retaliation. So this is how it looks when it goes really wrong. And when I was in England in my 20s, I saw a Punch and Judy show in the park for real. And I had only seen it a few times, on television when I was a kid. And seeing it live with these two characters smashing each other with these sticks was horrifying. And also didn't get the jokes. But also, I thought that everyone in this park is finding this hilariously funny with these two smacking each other. And I eventually ran away because I thought, this is a dangerous situation to be in, which I think it is. So retaliation is not a pretty thing. When I looked up the meaning of retaliation in the dictionary, it has what we know. It's to take a retributory action by returning some injury or wrong. To cast accusations upon a person in return, to avenge, to cause injury, wrongdoing, and all of this. So it's pretty negative behavior. And I know that I've engaged in retaliation in the past, and it's a pretty wretched thing to be engaged in, and it leaves the stains of that kind of behavior in the mind stream for a very long time. So fortunately, we're living at a time where we have seen people be subjected to incredible wrongs verbally and physically. And so when we think of what the Buddha had to endure, or Jesus, or Mahatma Gandhi, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, even our teachers get told very hurtful things. And to see them all meet this with grace and kindness and just acceptance is just a profound teaching for all of us. And then as I was preparing for this talk, I thought, well, this will be an easy one to put together. But then as I thought more and more about it, actually the antidotes are everywhere. It's just, if we're practicing the path, if we're really practicing, then we're not going to retaliate. It's just not going to happen. So Venerable Chodron, in one of her talks, identified 4 things that are going on when we want to really practice non-retaliation. So this is not a talk just about anger, because Venerable Jigme started us off yesterday by defining it and talking about antidotes. I think at least in the next 2 days, people will be talking more about anger, but this is specifically non-retaliation. And when Venerable was talking about this, she said it quite beautifully, that this practice is to bear the unbearable. So, in the heat of the moment, when somebody says something very unkind to us, I get overtaken by this feeling of perhaps wanting to say something back or do something back. And if we refrain from doing that, we are really victorious. It's really strength building when we don't retaliate. So there's 4 points that she identified in this one. And the first one is to not get angry when someone is angry at us. So who has gotten angry here when someone is angry at you? All hands went up, except for one. So we have a bodhisattva. We have one bodhisattva in our midst. I won't say the person's name, but we're going to be watching you carefully. So years ago, I was in the car with Venerable Chodron. We were going somewhere, I don't know, but I just happened to ask, well, what do you do when somebody gets angry at you? And she looked at me and she said, don't say anything. And that is great advice. I have used that, and I'm so happy I've kept my mouth shut. So many times I see the merit of doing that. And as the person continues to talk, if I just keep my mouth shut, I get more information about what is going on with the person. And as we've heard over and over again here, no one wakes up in the morning here and goes, I'm going to get really angry today, and I'm going to blast Danny. The minute I see her, I'm just going to let rip with some nasty words. We don't think like that. I mean, we just don't. So when someone just blasts us, the best thing to do is to just not say anything. And quite possibly, it might be wise also to move out of the space, because, you know, that person is in an afflicted state. And I know that I don't have the skill yet of staying calm when someone is raging in my face. I just don't have the skill. So I think the best thing to do is to bow, preferably, and say, I think it's best to continue this at another time, because I'm just not ready to do this right now. And then when we're both more calm, and this is now some NVC training that we're doing at the Abbey, which is nonviolent communication developed by Marshall Rosenberg. I'm not the expert in this one. But by osmosis, by going to class every week and picking up some of the skills. So when we're both in a calm state, then it's the time to go to the person and invite the person to speak about this at a time that works for them, and sort the thing out and try and find out with curiosity and an open heart as to what inspired that kind of response in the person. Then the second point is not retaliating when others beat us. Now, fortunately, I've never had this experience, and I think it is one of the benefits of being a female. When I was a teacher, and this is not to be picking on any gender, but when I was a teacher on, recess supervision, I spent most of my time pulling boys apart. And so it would start with something simple like somebody says, it's a dumb looking shirt you have on there. And then somebody else says, it's my favorite shirt. And then they fly at it. And, these little fists are going and they're trying to really hurt each other. And so, I step in and separate them. So the beating part is not something I have experience with, but I've certainly, we see it on the news every day. Somebody gets a shot in and the other person responds, and there's no thinking time in there. So I think if it would happen to me, my response would be to run away and to find safety. I suppose if I was really big, and maybe in my next life I will be really big with lots of muscles, I think it's quite all right if you have the strength to, if the person is just out of control and trying to beat you and you have the strength to maybe do a move that will restrain them, because some people know this kind of stuff, then it's best to restrain them in a safe way so that the person doesn't continue to hurt themselves. Because when a person is out of control like that, they're really hurting themselves too. So if you have that skill. Otherwise, if you're a man too, I'd say run away. Who cares? And if you're going to be called a sissy, well, don't retaliate. Just run away. Also with children, they don't have the capacity to get some space. If someone hits them, it's just an impulse to hit back. Their brains are developing, they don't have the skills. As adults, we may not have the skills yet, but we also know from experience that if we engage in this behavior, it's really, really potentially deadly. I remember as a kid, there was a period where my siblings and I were about the same size. And so when my parents were away from the house, we would frequently get into these wrestling matches that were going to start off as being just friendly wrestling matches. And then somebody gets a shot in, to the head, and somebody gets mad. And then fortunately, we had a bathroom door that locked. And that bathroom door that locked saved our lives on countless times. Now that is not a solution to retaliation, but it's the reason why I'm still alive. The third point is not to gossip about people who slander us. Well, who here hasn't gossiped about someone who has slandered us? Anyone? I'm looking at the Bodhisattva in our midst. Well, when I've done it, at the time of doing it, even though I feel I'm justified, this person has just slammed me, I've had occasions where I've heard people talking about me in ways that weren't very nice, and this has happened on more than one occasion. And so the one time I will relate is when I was a teacher and I heard the principal talking about me in very unkind words, and I was livid. So I went to another person on staff and we went through this person's bad qualities for quite some time. And we agreed on all of them. And at the end of it, I didn't feel good about myself, and it didn't change the situation, and it didn't change the anger in my mind. So it's a very ugly way of responding to that kind of thing. So what I was thinking about this morning in meditation actually is, if we saw someone in the crowd right now, and if we saw flames burst out of their head, just spontaneously, we would do anything. We would run to that person to douse the flames and to figure out what would put out the flame in their head. We would. We wouldn't think about who is it, have they been nice to me today? We would just act. And so I would love to be in the position of, when someone slams me publicly or I find out about it later, to see it just like that. The person is in pain. They're suffering. What can I do? What can I say to alleviate their suffering so that this doesn't continue? So again, people slam us not because they're happy. A contented, peaceful, joyful mind does not engage in that behavior. They're suffering and they're venting, which is one way of dealing with, anger. But venting, again, doesn't get rid of the source of the problem, which is the ignorant mind, which is just, reaching out in a very unskillful way. What else did I have about this? Yeah. So when I have refrained from not going to someone and saying, here's what this person said about me, and what do you think about that, and, poor me, and I really need your sympathy, and isn't that person rotten? What I'd rather do, and it gives me strength, is just to keep quiet about it and not spread the news. And when I've done that, I notice that it brings strength in my mind. And it also makes me feel victorious. Not victorious over the person who has slammed me, but victorious over my own inner, mind that would love to say something negative, but I haven't given that mind the opportunity to do that. And I think the more that I can do that, and I see it with other things, the more that strength of mind grows. And then, you can sort of, when that is really, really strong, I'm sure that's how His Holiness feels, or Venerable Children, You can go into any situation, and you know that you have the strength of character to deal with what anyone says. And won't that be a wonderful state of mind to have? I can't wait. I just can't wait. And then there's many verses in the 37 Practices of Bodhisattvas by Togme Sangpo. But the one that stuck out for me as I was getting this together is the one that says, though someone may deride and speak bad words about you in a public gathering, looking on him or her as a spiritual teacher, bow to him or her with respect. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So what Venerable Children says about this very beautiful verse is when we are sincerely focused on improving ourselves, we consider those who point out our faults as teachers guiding us in our chosen direction. Even if they criticize us unjustly, we see them as pointing out how unnecessarily defensive we become when falsely accused. So that's quite striking. I'm looking forward to having that strength of mind. I'm going to go back a bit because I missed one point, and I think my Bodhisattva friend here will go along with it for a minute. So the other thing that I think is important is to notice the state of my mind when someone says something to me. And if I already know that person does not intend any harm towards me, that person can say anything to me, anything in the world. For example, my Bodhisattva friend here likes to call me a queen. Now, I don't know what she means when she calls me a queen, but when she calls me a queen, I don't sense any harm. And I laugh, and I don't know what she's intending. So on the day when my mind decides, I don't think I like this anymore, I think she's trying to insult me, then I think I'm going to go to my Bodhisattva friend and say, in NVC style, I'm not sure why you're calling me a queen, but I'm feeling a little unhappy. I need some clarity. And I would like to request that when you're ready, Bodhisattva, that maybe we can go for a walk and you can tell me what it means when you call me a queen. So, you know, I think we can take any of these words lightly. Really, anyone can say anything to us. Like, you know, you couldn't pay me money to wear the shoes you're wearing. So, I just think, I'm just so looking forward to this kind of mind. And actually, any of the antidotes for anything gets our mind in a positive, you know, path. And so I think the antidotes for anger are everywhere. And we have fantastic role models to see this in action. And I think we also have very good friends around us who are practicing this in moments when their minds are not, you know, overcome with ignorance. And I think we can really rejoice when we see it in others and to point it out to them when they're doing it. Because quite often I think that people are doing so many good things that are such exemplary models for how to behave, and I don't point it out. So in addition to learning more ways of dealing with not retaliating, just to point out things when they're doing things well. I just want to check that I didn't miss the fourth point. Did I get the fourth point? Did I mention that? Oh, and it's very similar to the other one, not insulting those who insult us. And then this goes back to the Punch and Judy show. And again, you know, if someone, this again goes back to, you know, am I hearing this in an afflicted mental state, where the person means absolutely nothing by what they said? Or if they are insulting me, you know, just to see their suffering and give them space, and later on go and check it out and find out with a curious mind and a light mind, you know, what's going on. So anyway, here we are at Trasti Abbey. Someone's going to say something to me this afternoon, and I'm going to try not to retaliate. Yes, the 4 points for not retaliating are to not get angry when someone is angry at us. Are you asking me this because I wasn't clear? Joking! I'm joking. Not retaliating when others beat us. Not to gossip about people who slander us. And the fourth one is not insulting those who insult us.